Coming up on this week's Currently Trending, the rise of the influencer, influencers in the Middle East, and regulation in the industry. Welcome to Harper's Bazaar Arabia's Currently Trending podcast. I'm Sarah Garden, digital editor here at Harper's. This week we are discussing the rise of the influencer, and I'm joined by Tom Norton, head of content at ITP Live, Danae Mercer, who is a fitness and travel influencer, and also our very own Milli Midwood, who also runs her own fashion blog. Hi guys, thanks for joining us. So I'd like to start with you, Danae, because you are an influencer yourself. Why do you think the rise of the influencer has happened?
Well, I think most obviously it feels very authentic. I think people feel connected to individuals. I think part of it is voyeuristic. We're curious by nature. We want to see what other people are doing. And I think it feels much more organic. I started ages ago just posting pictures of my travels and that sort of thing, not because I was dreaming one day of going on, press trips. It was more because this is what I was doing and I thought it was kind of fun and kind of creative. So I feel like people, it's like you're peering into a window and you can talk to them, you can message them, you can interact with them. It's much more integrated. So I think I like it.
Millie, why do you think influencers have become so popular?
Well, the kind of whole point of an influencer or a blogger is to sort of democratize your field. So whether it's fashion or fitness, and create content that's attainable to your readers instead of, magazines are great, but sometimes they can really project quite an unattainable lifestyle. And I think bloggers are supposed to be kind of that middleman almost. And there's so many different bloggers of different tiers. You're a luxury blogger, so you will get people that follow you for luxury escapes, but you might get people that are in a lower tier. They promote affordable escapes. So there's a massive market. There's so many different bloggers to follow.
That's an interesting point about how many influencers there are in the market at the moment. So, Tom, can we ask you a bit about why influencers have become so important to brands?
I think they've become a kind of social media manifestation of word of mouth marketing. For restaurants and brands, there is nothing more powerful than a friend recommending it to another friend. And influencers, as they say, because our naturally voyeuristic tendencies, have become like our friends, and people kind of feel familiarized with them, and their content becomes episodic and they tune in every day. And, to the stats back it up. I think 70% of millennials have stated that they would listen to an influencer's recommendation on something they're going to buy. Like 74% of people take recommendations from social media. So when you combine those two, it's hugely powerful. And then in terms of advertising revenue, people say you get $7 to every $1 spent on influencer marketing, which is 11 times better than traditional advertising. And the rise in influence marketing has mirrored declines in other traditional advertising, print, online, in other parts of the world, apart from Harper's Bazaar. So I think all of that has gone into this sort of melting pot, and I know there are kind of naysayers out there, but it is proven. It is statistically proven, theoretically, realistically proven. And it is very much, I think, destined to stay around.
Do we think it's got anything to do with the sheer amount of time that people spend on social media these days?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you guys are, huge social media personalities, but you consume it as much as you use it, right? In terms of you're looking at other people as much as you are posting your own stuff.
Exactly. It's much more connected these days.
Do you think that the rise of influencer marketing is a positive thing?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's just another way that people are consuming content, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
I think I'm biased because I'm part of that industry, but I come from a traditional journalism background, and I come from a very traditional media, written word background. And I think influencer marketing is beautiful and it's powerful, and it's, if companies have been advertising for years and years with newspapers, with TV, with radio, with magazines, why not with influencers? I think the risk is that we haven't yet figured out how to make things transparent. So consumers don't know if this is an ad, where the money's happening. Do they need to know? Do they know that when they look at print? Do they know that when they listen to radio? And, these are all, I think, quite important questions that just now the scene's trying to grapple with, and how you have honesty, to what extent is honesty required. So I think it's a complicated thing, and it's only going to become more so as I agree with Tom. I think influencer marketing is only going to grow. I think this is where our world is shifting. So I think we'll start to figure this out, but it's early stages.
How about you, Millie? Do you think it's positive?
Yeah, I think when you actually look at it, every brand uses an influencer. Brands like Namshi, 60% of their revenue comes from working with bloggers. That's massive. And then you might look at brands like Chanel and think, oh, well, they don't work with influencers, but they do. They just do it in a different way. They have celebrities like Kristen Stewart and Keira Knightley, or whoever it might be, who their sort of title is actress, but they are influential people at the end of the day. And that's why the brands have tapped into them to be the face of campaigns. It just so happens that the sort of influencers nowadays are considered, normal people, I say in air quotes. But so sometimes people have a bit more of a problem with that. But ultimately, every brand is using an influencer.
If I can just sort of add to it, I think the reason why some people say it's a bad thing is because they think a lot of those influencers out there are self-made for no particular reason, like what makes them an authority. But a lot and they think they're just sort of gun for hires for any company. But the good ones, the really good ones, are fairly particular about what they choose. And they will, there's a saying that I think most marketeers subscribe to the idea that unless an influencer would endorse your product for free, then you shouldn't use them. Obviously, you will pay to use them, but it has to be a natural kind of synergy. And I feel like a few bad cases shouldn't, set a kind of cynical tone, because, as we have said, it does work. And I mean, we all have. I mean, I know I have. I've taken a recommendation on a restaurant based on what I've read, and that's it at its most sort of basic level. So I think, the good has far weighed out the bad. That's not to say there aren't a few people who kind of might undercut the market a little bit and take anything that they're given, but celebrities do that as well. Let's be honest, and no one's had a problem with George Clooney doing espresso, or some of Cristiano Ronaldo's terrible endorsements, but. And this new generation of influencers could potentially become more impactful than these celebrity endorsements, because, as I say, people feel a certain kinship with a lot of them, which isn't there for the superstar celebrities. They recognise their faces, and they're hugely impactful advertising billboards, but people feel like if they follow someone for a couple of years, that I know this person, so their endorsement is worth much more than a Clooney or something.
And I think one of the really interesting things that people don't talk about much is with the good, again, air quotes, with the good influencers, you say no to about 90% of the things that come your way, because it's, at the end of the day, influencers, the social media creatures, they are their own business. And I think strong business people, you want to be honest, you want to stay true to your brand, you want to keep doing what's right for you and your followers, like what they actually would enjoy or be interested in. So but no one talks about, like, if you get a rubbish campaign offer, I'm not going to take that to social media and be like, look at these 10 things I said no to today. Mm-hmm. And so people don't realize, but it's the case. Sorry to interrupt.
Just following on from that it is a lose-lose situation for both. Brands might get the reach, but one of the main reasons this has become such a kind of potent form of marketing is engagement has become the new impressions. When people used to take, EDMs or impressions, based on MPUs and leaderboards, it's worth less to them. Engagement is worth a lot. And if you do a bad campaign with an influencer that isn't right, you get no engagement. You might be able to tell your bosses, we use this person and it had a reach of this much, but it doesn't matter if there's 4 comments on it, and that's why it has to be so nuanced. It isn't just a case of they have 2 million followers, let's get them to endorse this, new fragrance or bath salt or something like that, and they're a travel influencer. You will get the reach maybe, but you won't get the engagement, and that is what really, really matters. Which is why micro influencers have become so big. They say that you can get about 7 times I think I remember 7 or 8 times the engagement as you can with these macro influencers. So a lot of brands are veering towards the sort of the lower end of the spectrum in terms of followers, because it's more niche, it's more engagement. That's not saying macro, these huge influencers don't have their absolute benefit, but that is the good thing about influence marketing. It isn't a number that you have to reach to be of value to a brand.
So leading on from our last segment, last weekend we just had Beauty Pop in the Middle East, which was all about beauty launches, and we also had lots of talks and collaborations with influencers. Do you think that this is a trend that we're starting to see all over the world, where nowadays people want to actually start interacting with influencers that they see online?
Definitely. I mean, just the few that we've held over the last year with Mo Vlogs, with Rashid, they've been huge. People like, we did on a Comic-Con this month, where they just were playing a PlayStation game in a glass box, and people were like crowded around just to look at them playing this game. They are very much celebrities, and as I said, because of that sort of familiarity with them, people are almost more there's more hysteria over it. They think of them as their friends because they see them every day. They aren't movie stars to them; they are part of their lives that they talk about with their friends. So, yeah, the chance to meet them face to face, interact with them, I think, as Beauty Pop showed, is a huge fanfare for the people.
And I think we're seeing, especially in sort of the travel industry, you're seeing more and more influencers hosting their own, yoga retreat or sailing trip, or come meet us in Bali and stay with us at this hotel for a week. And obviously those influencers are collaborating with the brands to do that, but it's a very real chance for their followers to do something exciting, to go on a trip, but go on a trip with a familiar face, and to get to meet these people that they probably feel they already know. And I think we'll see more and more of that, because for brands, it's pretty much a sure way of drawing in of customers, essentially, of drawing them on your plane or your boat or your hotel in Bali. It's sort of, it's instant, really.
Just picking up on that point about a good way for brands to draw in customers, what do we think about regulation in the industry up until this point? Because obviously that's been in the news a lot lately. Has transparency been a problem?
Has it been a problem? I think the reason it's been addressed is because it has been a problem. They want to legitimize this industry, and it is very much an industry, and I think quite rightly so. It's something that the FTC in the States have been cracking down on for the last couple of years. Transparency of social media influencers' posts, and they've are going to initiate court proceedings against some really, really big celebrities, and not just influencers, but celebrities who aren't towing the line in this regard. So we are trying to, the NMC over here are trying to incorporate these rules of a trade license needed, the same, of a similar license that governs the titles ITP, for example. If you're publishing content and you're commercializing your feed, even if you're not getting paid for it, that is what a lot of people have asked. Am I still liable if I'm posting stuff that I get as a freebie? And you are, because you are communicating a commercial message effectively. So yeah, you will need this trade license, which is priced now, I think, 15,000 dirhams from what was said at our conference last month. Which I imagine will separate those who are fully committed to pursuing this as a career, and maybe the young pretenders. We hope it doesn't price people out of the market, which would be a real shame. But there are amazing ways and means of achieving this through agencies like ITP Live, for example, who can help in that regard, and legitimize this as a profession for you to earn money, and good money from it. And you have till I think end of June. June to do so.
Yeah, I think for a lot of influencers in the region, I think the frustration isn't so much that these things are required, but rather that there's a lot of confusion around what exactly is required. If I have this license, does it work for that? If I do this already, does that count? where should I register, and these sorts of things. And I think it's linked to the fact that the rules are still being sorted out and
I think,
picked
yeah,
through.
because inherently it is quite a grey area, a lot of it. But like the FTC, for example, in the States, they used to say that if you wrote thanks to or in partnership with or hashtag spawn was all right. And I think now they've changed it late last year. So it has to say hashtag ad. Hashtag thanks to or partnered with won't cut it anymore. It has to be hashtag ad. And out here, though we haven't established what a hashtag would denote a post, I think the transparency is in the, for example, Instagram, you have the in partnership with tag. And as long as you're doing that, I'm not sure if you guys, I know you're quite good at marking your posts, most are, but if you don't, and Instagram's algorithm is becoming so impressive that they will find or flag a post that looks commercialized and say you need to be tagging this, otherwise you're in violation. If you're in violation, Instagram will damage your reach and your engagement, and it's a very serious thing. So if you're, as I said, just marking it as paid for, everything that is, we don't have to worry about hashtags just yet, I don't think, until the NMC say otherwise. Then that is enough transparency for them, and also for your followers. It's important to them, and I don't think it will damage it. I think that it's a myth that this will turn followers off. It won't. I think a lot of the time, they're not idiots. These people, they know what paid for post and a normal one. So if you are just being fully open and transparent about it, I think it's only a good thing.
I think that's a good place to stop. We could carry on talking about this for hours, I think. We'll maybe need to do a second podcast on influencers once these changes have come into effect. Thank you very much, Tom, Milli and Danae, for joining us. Thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of Harper's Bazaar Arabia on newsstands now, and check out harpersbazaararabia.com for all your daily fashion news. We're really keen to hear what you think about this topic, so you can use the hashtag HBA Currently Trending or email hbacurrentlytrending@itp.com. We're also planning a podcast that asks, are you influenced by influencers? So we will read out the best comments that we receive. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and rate this podcast while you're there. See you again next time.